3.6 is on the topic of 30, 60, 90 triangles. And we're going to start with one large equilateral triangle. So that means all of the angles are congruent. If all the angles are congruent, then all of the angles are 60-degree angles. Now from the top, I'm going to draw an altitude to the bottom. That altitude bisected the angle up at the top, so that's 30 degrees on the right and 30 degrees on the left. I'm going to look at the triangle on the right. You could see I have a 30-degree angle, a 60-degree angle, and a 90-degree angle in this triangle. The hypotenuse of our right triangle is one of the sides of the equilateral triangle. I'm going to label it with the size 2x. That means all the sides are 2x for the equilateral triangle. When I drew the altitude to the base, that bisected the base. So the base gets split up into x and x. And now I want to figure out what the height of the triangle would be. So the altitude I'm going to label as h. And I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem on the right-hand triangle. H squared plus x squared equals quantity 2x squared. H squared plus x squared would equal 4x squared. Subtract x squared from both sides. That leaves h squared equals 3x squared. And now I'll take the square root of both sides. So h is the square root of 3 times x. Or we usually write that as x root 3. So it's obvious that the x is not underneath the square root. That means the height of this triangle is x root 3. And so now we have a relation between the sides of a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Let's rewrite them off to the right. I drew another triangle here. This will be the 30-degree angle, and this will be the 60-degree angle. The hypotenuse is labeled with 2x, and the side across from the 30-degree angle is labeled with x. The side across from the 60-degree angle was the height of that triangle, and that is x root 3. So notice how we have the hypotenuse labeled as 2x. Whatever the hypotenuse is, this side across from 30 is shorter than the other leg. So this is considered the shorter leg, or the short leg. And notice how it has a length of x. So it's always half of whatever the hypotenuse is. And then this x root 3 side is across from the 60-degree angle. It is the long leg of the 30, 60, 90 triangle. When we go to look at our examples, in number 1 below, you are being given the hypotenuse of 10, and the side across from the 30 would be side BC. The 30-degree angle is up at the top, and across from it is BC, and that is half of the hypotenuse. So BC has length 5. Then, if you look back at our diagram, whatever the shortest leg is, you have to multiply that by root 3 to get the longer leg. So since we have a 5 on the shorter leg, I'm going to multiply by root 3 to get the longer leg. So the longer leg is 5 root 3. If we're going to multiply by root 3 to go from the shorter leg to the longer leg, then we need to divide by root 3 to go from the longer leg back to the shorter leg. So in number 2, we have the longer leg because I can see that it's across from the 60-degree angle. So to go from the longer leg to the shorter leg, I'm going to divide by root 3. Take 6 and divide by root 3. It means I'm going to have to rationalize. So multiply top and bottom by root 3. You would get 6 root 3 over 3. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice. So this shorter leg is 2 root 3. Now all I have left to find is the hypotenuse. Look back at our diagram. When we have the short leg, to get the hypotenuse, we need to multiply by 2, or double it. We have 2 root 3 on the short leg. We need to multiply that by 2. 2 times 2 root 3 is 4 root 3. So the hypotenuse is 4 root 3. Number 3, side QP has a length of 7, and it's across from the 30-degree angle. So that means this is the side that's labeled X. To get the hypotenuse, we're going to multiply by 2, which is what we just did on the previous problem. 7 times 2 is 14. And then to get the longer leg, we're going to multiply by root 3. So we'll get 7 root 3 is the longer leg. Okay, just to get used to the angles a little bit more, I came up with problems 4 through 6. So I give you 2 sides, and you have to tell me the missing angle that I'm asking for. In number 4, it's angle J. So angle J is across from the 2. The 2 is on a leg, and I'm noticing the hypotenuse is 4. So that means this is the short leg, because the short leg is always half of the hypotenuse. And the short leg is always across from the 30-degree angle. So angle J is 30 degrees. Number 5, we get both legs in this case. So you can tell the side with 15 is going to be the short leg. Multiply by root 3 to get the longer leg. Now the longer leg is always across from the 60-degree angle. So angle S is 60 degrees. In number 6, we have a hypotenuse of 16. Half of 16 is 8. This leg is already labeled with 8 root 3. So this other side must be the leg of length 8. Remember, you divide by 2 to get from the hypotenuse to the shortest leg. Angle A is across from that shortest leg. So that means angle A is 30 degrees. Try number 7 through 9. Pause the video and do those 3 problems, and then turn the video back on to check your answers. Okay, answers for 7 through 9. The missing sides are the hypotenuse and this leg on the bottom. Now I have an 8 on a leg, and the 60-degree angle is already given. That means the remaining angle must be 30 degrees. So 8 is actually on the shortest leg. It's across from the 30-degree angle. That means if I multiply by root 3, I will get the longer leg. So the longer leg is 8 root 3. And then if I take the short leg and multiply by 2, I'll get 16 for the hypotenuse. Number 8, the hypotenuse is 24. I know if I divide that by 2, I'll get the shorter leg, which is across from the 30-degree angle. So I know that the 12 goes on that top side, and to get the longer leg, I just need to multiply that by root 3. So that'll give me 12 root 3 for the longer leg. In number 9, I have the 30-degree angle, which means the remaining angle is 60 degrees. Across from the 60-degree angle is 18. That is supposed to be the x root 3 side. So if I look at that, x root 3 is supposed to be 18. I'm going to divide both sides by root 3 and rationalize that. So multiply top and bottom by root 3. That gives me 18 root 3 over 3, and it reduces. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 18 6 times. So that means x is 6 root 3. The side that is x is the side across from the 30-degree angle. So x is 6 root 3 for that other leg. Then, to get the hypotenuse, I'm going to multiply that by 2. So I'm going to do 6 root 3 times 2, which is 12 root 3. And then we have more problems like that to practice. So do numbers 10 through 12 and turn off the video. When you are done doing those problems, turn the video back on and check your answers. Number 10. The 12 is across from the 60-degree angle, so that's the x root 3 side. So I'm going to divide both sides by root 3 in that equation, and I know that x will be 12 over root 3. But I need to rationalize the denominator. So multiply top and bottom by root 3. That means x is 12 root 3 over 3, which can be reduced. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 12 4 times. So x is 4 root 3. That would be the length of the shorter leg, 4 root 3. Take that number and multiply it by 2 to get the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse would be 8 root 3. Number 11. The missing angle is the 60-degree angle, and 27 is across from that. So 27 is our x root 3 side. So since the equation's written there, I'm going to divide both sides by root 3 right there. That means I need to rationalize 27 over root 3. And I'm going to multiply top and bottom by root 3, which gives me 27 root 3 over 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 27 9 times. So 9 root 3 is the length of the shorter leg because that's the value of x. Take 9 root 3 and multiply it by 2 to get the hypotenuse, which is 18 root 3. We get to do this one more time. The missing angle is 60, so that means 15 is on the x root 3 side. So 15 equals x root 3. Divide both sides by root 3 and rationalize. So 15 over root 3 times root 3 over root 3 will get us x. That's 15 root 3 over 3, and 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 15 5 times. So x is 5 root 3. Find the shortest leg of the triangle and label it with 5 root 3. Then double that to get the hypotenuse. In a 30, 60, 90 triangle, find the ratio of the longer leg to the hypotenuse. Well, I would want you to redraw our original triangle. We had a right angle here, we had 60 degrees here, 30 degrees in the other angle. Across from the 30 is x. Double that to get the hypotenuse. So put 2x on the hypotenuse, and then take the x and multiply by root 3 to get the longer leg. So now when they ask me for the ratio, I just need to take those algebras off the sides to do this. The ratio of longer leg to the hypotenuse would be x root 3 over 2x. Notice how you could cancel an x on the top with an x on the bottom. That leaves us with root 3 over 2, and that's the answer. Number 14, the shorter leg to the hypotenuse. What's the length of the shorter leg from the diagram? It is x, and the hypotenuse is 2x. You can cancel the x on the top, which leaves a 1, with the x on the bottom. That reduces to 1 over 2, or 1 to 2. Okay, now you try number 15. So pause the video real quick and then come back and check. I'm going to set up shorter leg to longer leg so you know what I'm doing. The shorter leg is labeled with x. The longer leg is labeled with x root 3. You know you can cancel the x's. Remember that leaves a 1 on the top when you do that. So that reduces to 1 over root 3. But you need to rationalize the denominator. So multiply top and bottom by root 3. You'll get root 3 over 3. You're done. And number 16, the perimeters of two 30-69 triangles are in the ratio of 1 to 2. So if you know anything about ratios, 1 to 2, that means one of the triangles is going to be like twice as big as the other one. So you got a big triangle and a little triangle. They're saying the hypotenuse of the larger triangle is 24, and the ratio of their perimeters is 1 to 2. So 1 to 2, that means the smaller triangle to the bigger triangle when we're talking about their perimeters. Smaller to bigger is 1 to 2. And we know the hypotenuse of the bigger triangle is 24. So put that on the bottom of a proportion. We are about to find out the hypotenuse of the little triangle by doing this. I'm going to use the letter H to stand for hypotenuse. So when I cross multiply, I'll get 2h equals 24. So the hypotenuse of the smaller triangle is 12. So put a 12 there. I'm supposed to find the length of the longer leg of the small triangle. Okay, if the hypotenuse is 12, what's the shorter leg? The shorter leg would be half of that, or 6. And then the longer leg you always get by multiplying by root 3. So 6 times root 3 is 6 root 3. So the answer here is 6 root 3.